Hi everyone, it's Emily. It is currently, November 8th. I don't know when you're actually going to see this video because of editing, time constraints, and everything. To be honest, I'm not sure whether this particular video is going to happen because I'm having issues with my camera on my phone and all this stuff. So, normally in these videos, what I do is I talk about the cross-stitching I've been doing, the knitting and crochet I've been doing, and other yarny crafts, and then any other crafting I've been doing. I have not done any cross-stitching or embroidery or anything like that for the past, it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks since I filmed last. I just haven't really been in the mood. However, I did have an exciting development, which you may see really soon, so I'm just going to show it to you now rather than wait for the end. I have new babies. Aren't they cute? This is Basalt and Shale. They are male Dumbo rats. They're going to be 8 weeks old tomorrow, and I've had them since their 6-week birthday, so a couple of weeks. They're still young enough they don't fully understand the whole mom is crafting, you need to not, like, chew on her shit thing yet. So that's been cutting a little bit into my crafting time. I have them out for an afternoon playtime. I woke them up from their afternoon nap, so they're a little bit more chill than usual. Anyway, been having them out a lot. They've got kind of a little play area around here, so if you hear any random bumps and crashes, that's probably them. If you hear any random screaming, my brother's playing video games in the other room, you know how it goes. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, I'm sure you'll see them wandering around, crawling on my shirt, all that jazz, trying to go down my shirt. Anyway, they're babies. They don't really have a sense of what's appropriate. So, now that I've said that and shown you them, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the knitting and crocheting I've done, because I have done a lot of that. That is what I've been in the mood for. I've finished 3 things since the last time I talked to you, and I've started 2 things, I think. And I've worked on some old stuff, and I've bought a bunch of yarn. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Throw in my pen. So, let's start from what I was working on last time that I have gotten finished. So, first item, oh, and by the way, I actually have a video editing program that lets me put in like pictures of where it was last, so I'll try to insert those as appropriate. And I have notes for once, which has like the designer names and everything. It's awesome. I'm actually prepared. Who knew? I hope the lighting's okay. It's Oregon, and so it's like rainy and totally gray, even though it's like 3 o'clock. So, the first thing that I finished was this little market bag. This is the apricot string bag pattern by Birgit Tushen, I think. Not my language for knowing how to pronounce it. And I heavily used some mods of this pattern by a member of Ravelry who's named Pico Fentu. If you look in the description bar below, I'll have a link to my project page for this, and then I have a link to her project page where she talks about the modifications she did. Basically, her modifications made these little cluster stitches look better and made it so that there wasn't an obvious weird seam on the back of this bag. And I did this in the Regia 3-ply black light fingering sock yarn kind of a thing. I had it left over from something else I'd done. I can't even remember what it was right now. I did this with a size E or 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, and I'm going to be honest, would not recommend this pattern to you if you're looking for a pattern for a market bag. I have a rat making an escape attempt. Okay, he's corralled. Well, like I said, there's a weird seam if you don't follow the modifications. These little cluster stitches, at least the way I make them, looked really awkward and squatty if you don't follow the modifications. The pattern, say hi, the PDF pattern, so it's a pattern that's on a blog, and there's a way that you can click and get like the PDF of the complete pattern. And I mentioned this before, it doesn't have the instructions for these puff stitches in here. So the thing that makes this bag different from the other bags isn't in the PDF. So if you're working from the PDF, you have to also handwriting the instructions for those puff stitches, except you probably don't want to. You probably want to use the ones that the other person did, because I don't like the way the ones that the designer did look. The other thing is, and this may be more my fault than the designer's fault, is this is not very stretchy up at the top, so it kind of limits what I can put into this bag. My goal was to get a small bag that I could carry around like in a purse or something, but this is kind of the limiting factor on that at the moment. We have escapees on every direction. Hi! So I don't think I would recommend this apricot string bag pattern. I like the finished project. I would definitely, if you're thinking about doing this, look at the modifications that Pico Fintu suggests, and yeah, I did that. I'm sure I'll get a lot of use out of it. One of the things I wanted to do is, usually people make market bags out of cotton, and this is wool, and I wanted to see, people are like, oh, do not eat my brushes, little man. Don't eat the brushes. Anyway, people are like, wool's going to stretch too much, but cotton's kind of, I don't know, I wasn't sure if that's actually true, so I'm trying it with wool just to see. So I did that. The next thing that I've been working on was the bamboo mitts that I was telling you about last time. These little guys, which go on like so. I finished these as well. I finished these, both of those not long after the previous video. So these ones are, the pattern is kind of a mashup of two patterns. There's a handspun mitts by a designer named Haley, which is a light fingering, very small amount of yarn mitten pattern, fingerless mitten pattern, which is knit from the top down instead of from the bottom up, which is kind of interesting and lets you adapt your length here based on how long, how much yarn you have, which is really nice. And then I wanted, because this yarn is the Deborah Norville Serenity sock that has some bamboo content in it, I wanted to do this bamboo kind of ribbing pattern. And I could have made it up myself, but I happened to find a free pair of socks called Bamboo Socks by Lorraine Erlinger, which had this, and I narrowed it down so it would fit the, because I think hers was a 4-stitch rib here, and mine's a 3-stitch, but it was convenient because then I had the spacing for these little bamboo ridges to put in without needing to worry about it. So I did that. I opted not to put the thumbs on these because I put one of the thumbs on and it felt really tight, more so than this, and I felt that with this kind of minimal, small thing, it made sense to not have full thumbs. So I like this the way it is. I finished that sucker. I did do it on a US size 3 or 3.25 millimeter needle. I used double-pointed needles, I believe, for the whole thing. So I did those. And then, let's see. So then I had some leftovers from those, and I stuck that in my leftover sock yarn fingering superwash jar. Here it's a little kind of glass cookie jar type of deal. Hello, love. And what I'm doing with that is I am working on, oop, knock down the shirt in front of everyone. I'm working with that for this mitered square scrap blanket. So you can see this is from the, that's from the Black Regia that I just did, and then this, no, not that one. This one, nope, where is it? One of them, this one. This one is from that Deborah Norville Serenity sock, which I don't think I mentioned. It's called Navy. It's a dark charcoal gray, but it's called Navy. I don't understand. Anyway, I'm working on this. I don't really have a pattern. I've looked up how to do mitered square blankets, and I'm following the Little Bobbins had on her project page instructions for how many she cast on and how she did the decreases, and I'm following that. If you look at my project page, which again I'll have down below, you'll be able to see what, oi, he's eating my window shades now. You'll be able to see what I was doing for that one. So, after I'd done all of that, if you remember last time I was showing you that I'd hand-dyed some Fisherman's Wool, Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool yarn, 100% wool, Aran weight yarn. Rats are thinking about jumping off the desk now. Anyway, you can see why my knitting time has been a little bit restricted. So let me find the hat that I'm looking for in this container here, because I put them in a container away from the baby boys. Alright, so this was the yarn that I had dip dyed into purple to get a breaking from this like brighter purple to what I was hoping was going to be a bright blue, but turned out to be like a gray blue. What are you looking at? And this hat I knit and obviously started and finished. This is called Graham. It's a free pattern by Jennifer Adams. And this was, I should mention, this yarn was one that I originally knit, or was originally the oatmeal color, so just like a light tan. And let's see, I knit this with size 6 needles for the ribbing and size 8 needles for this broken rib. It's actually an inside-out broken rib pattern, so you can wear it this way if you want to. And you knit it with this side out, and then you turn it inside out, and this is kind of like the main way. And so I haven't washed this yet, so I expect it will soften up a little bit when I wash it. But for right now, it's kind of a slouchy hat a little bit. I can't tell if you can see what's going on with that hat. Or if you wanted more of a fitted hat, you can pull it down and double up your ribbing and get like a little beanie thing. And one thing I thought was really cool was just because of my gauge, this yarn, ooh, hat hair, this yarn pooled in this spiral around the entire hat, including up into this broken rib. It's harder to see, but you get this kind of spiral effect, which is really cool. So, finished that hat. I liked that pattern. I may very well be knitting another hat with that pattern because it was easy and fun. I liked how it came out. So there's that. Then I had a little bit of that yarn left over after the hat, and what I decided to do, I'm really hoping that I remember to grab this and bring it over here. What I did with that was I wound it really, really tightly. This is way tighter than you'd ever want to wind your yarn to store, because if you store it this tightly wound, it can stretch out the yarn. But this is going to be a dryer ball. So I'm winding this really, really tightly, and once it gets a bit bigger, I will put it through the washing machine, because this is a non-superwash wool, it will felt. Put it through the washing machine to get it to felt, and then I can leave it in the dryer, and it's going to be heavy for its size, and it will be good to kind of knock the clothes around and keep them from getting all tangled up. So I'm hopeful that that's going to work out well. Don't mind the rats knocking stuff over. So that's what I'm going to do with the leftovers from that hand-dyed yarn, is I'm going to turn them into dryer balls. And I do know that they're not gonna, bleed or anything, because I dyed them and rinsed them, and there's no more color coming out of them. So that was that, and then as soon as I got done with that Graham hat and wound up the yarn, I started another hat with another of these yarns, this one being the red and orange and tan, kind of fall leaves inspired one. Oh man, I'm in the middle of a row. Okay, so this is a hat. This is, in fact, let me check, the 1898 hat, which I always want to call the 1989 hat, but it's the 1898 hat by Christine Burns. It's also a free pattern. And the way this one works is that this is going to be the ear flap and band. So it's going to be, it's going to sit here over your ear, and it's going to be a band. You're going to do another ear flap on the other side. And then once you get done with that, you're going to connect these two and knit up to get, the top of the hat. So it'll have a double thick edge, and it will have this nice little flap out that goes under your ear to keep it nice and warm. I will try to, I don't have the pattern printed out, but I'll try to snag a picture of the final product and stick it in here so you can see what it will eventually look like. So I'm really happy about that one. This yarn, like I said, it was one of the hand-dyed ones that I'd done. It was originally Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool Oak Tweed, which has these kind of brown bands with a tan in between them. So the brown band's kind of maintained, and it gives this really cool look. I'm really happy. It reminds me a lot of like maple leaves, fall maple leaves, which was my goal. And I'm knitting this one, again, on the size 8 or 5mm needles. I got these in recently. These are, what's the brand? I want to say they're Knitter's Pride, the Royale needles, I think. they have these little twisty things, so that way the needle spins, so that way you don't get kinks in your cord. Although I'm not a huge fan because I find it's hard to push the stitches up onto the needle because I find that this connection kind of wiggles rather than being a completely smooth connection, so I don't love that. But I do like the little needles. I like the feel of wood in my hands, but I'm a tight knitter, so I really like metal to keep things moving along, and this combination of the wood with the metal tips is really nice for that reason. So I've been working on that. Let's see. And then we're going to get into things that you've seen me work on in the past, but not necessarily for a while. This next one I'm going to show you, you did see fairly recently. It's the size 30 crochet cotton yin yang dragon's fillet netting project. Let me recover my rat. Where's your brother? Oh, there he is. Never mind, he's in the cozy. So I had gotten about 10 rows in, and I was doing this with a Susan Bates steel hook, and I hated it. And I got in the mail these tulip hooks. They're actually so fine, they have a little protective cover on them. They're from Japan. They're amazing. This is a 0.75 millimeter, so it was a lot smaller than the Susan Bates hook. The problem with the Susan Bates that I had was that it has this narrow taper, right? And then the point sticks way out, so you always have to fight with it to go through. Whereas on these, the points are much more in line with the entire thing, and so it slides through much more easily. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I decided that this was a close enough size I was going to try it. I really liked it, but it was making smaller mesh squares than the Susan Bates hook, so I ripped the entire thing out. Because I knew I wasn't going to be happy with it, and I figured I was going to be happier ripping it out at 10 rows in than at 50 rows in, so I ripped it out and I restarted it, and I'm up to here. And this pattern, you know, I can't even remember if I told you the pattern. This pattern is the Yin Yang Dragons by Jacqueline Barty. I'm using a 0.75 millimeter hook, so smaller than a millimeter, very small. Very easy to work with, though. I like it a lot. And let me see, I'll just hold this way back so you can kind of, without seeing the pattern, you can kind of see that it's going to be this Yin Yang Dragons. So right now what we have, and I dropped the pattern on the floor. Right now what we have is just this base of the circle that's happening. If I lean back, you can see the whole thing. So, I'm working on that, slowly but surely. It's going a lot faster now that I have the hook where I don't have to fight with every single stitch. Susan Bates, 5-hook steel crochet hook set. Don't buy it. You will regret it. Get on Etsy. You can get the tulip hooks for like $1 or $2 per hook from people in India. It's a Japanese brand, and I can't seem to find them sold individually here, but apparently they're sold individually in India because there's a bunch of Indian sellers reselling them from boxes. I don't know. Anyway, it's good. I like them. So that was that one. And then the other one is one that I have not worked on in quite a while. You may remember this. So the pattern is called the Scheherazade Shawl. It's by Anna Victoria, or by the Lily Pond. And there's this variant that she calls the Dunyazad shawl that has this stockinette center as opposed to the Scheherazade shawl with the full lace center. And that's what I'm working on. I'm working on this in the Filatura di Crassa Nirvana yarn in, I believe it's dark teal. It's color 23. And I have dark teal written down, so I'm going to assume that's the name of this color. And I am working on the lace border. So, let me find the front of this. So, this is where I was up to last time, and as you can see, I've done a fair bit more beyond this. Whoa, the colors are turning all funky. Thanks, lack of lighting. So this is starting to get slow because the border is going to go from kind of being a triangular shape to kind of swooping out so that it goes around your shoulders nicely. But I'm adding like 88 stitches per row. Now, normally a shawl would add like 6 or 8 stitches per row, so I'm adding a lot of stitches per row. But it's looking really cool. I like the lace. It's going to be really nice once it's all stretched out here. And I'm hoping, you know, from the pictures I was thinking this was going to be a bigger stockinette center, so I'm hoping that this stretches as well as the lace border is sufficiently, I'm trying to make the color go back to being normal. I hope that the lace border is sufficiently large. And I had an exciting progress report here because I had done, you can see these little V's here, I had done this error where it kind of went like a V and then droop, and then there was a little bit there, and I will insert a picture here so you can see it was supposed to be doing a V and it's doing, I don't know what. So I did some lace surgery. I pinned it out so I could see where everything was and I could know how many loops I had to begin with. And then I dropped down, I unpicked all the stitches that were affected, and then I started to take some of my tiny crochet hooks, including the one that I used for the Yin Yang Dragons, and I very carefully re-knit the rows onto 2 crochet hooks, and then at the end, what do you know, it was making a V again. And it is, in fact, this V right here. Can't tell anymore that there was ever anything wrong. It is a tiny bit, like, more lopsided, but that's just because of how it got pulled when I was fixing it. When I wash it, it will go back to normal. So, there's that. I'll use my cheek as a background. So I love this. This is a lace weight. It's the first time I've knit with lace weight. It's super thin. The yarn itself is like this thin. It's crazy. But I love it, and I'm really excited to get back to this and finish it off. I'm hoping to finish it pretty soon. I've got quite a ways to go, especially if I keep adding at this rate. I don't know, it may stop adding and just kind of go back to maintaining the size. I'm not sure. We will see. So there's that. And that's all I've been working on. I did get some yarn from a couple of sales that happened. Hello. So my 2 favorite shops, which are Dizzy Sheep and Knit Picks, both had some sales that I wanted to do last month. Dizzy Sheep had I believe it was the International Nacho Day sale. They had a sale because of Nacho Day. Yeah, but they had some good yarn. So I'm going to show you what I got there. I got my first ever, okay, he's going on the front of the shirt, not in the shirt. My first ever alpaca yarn. This is Eco Puna by Amano, 100% baby alpaca. This is the Andean Brown colorway. And what's really cool about this yarn is that apparently alpaca has the biggest variation in natural coat colors of any of the yarn producing animals. And so this Eco Puna line is where they take these yarns. This is an actual natural color. They breed the natural colors that they want and they spin them and they don't dye them, and it's really cool. They've also got just the regular Puna line, which has got dyes, but I liked this better. I've never touched alpaca before. It's so soft. It's supposed to be warmer than wool, I believe, as well. But my goal with this was I was wearing one of my knit headband ear warmers. I think I've only, actually my headband ear warmer, period. And my mom saw it and she really liked it. So I'm going to knit her one out of this brown because she wanted a brown one to go with her cream colored jacket. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of it, but it is super soft, and I wanted to try alpaca, and it was a good opportunity to do so. So, my first alpaca. We'll see how I feel about that. My plan is to cast on for her thing after I finish either the 1898 hat or the Dunyazade shawl, depending on whichever comes first. Would you stop climbing on my yarn? Rats. And then the other thing that I bought from the Dizzy Sheep sale, well, I bought those needles that I have in my hat. And I also bought this Malabrigo, I believe this is sock. Yes, this is Malabrigo sock in the Alcaucil brand. It's 100% merino, 2-ply, I think. It's definitely plied, it may be a 3-ply. Anyway, it's a fingering weight. The other one was fingering weight too, for what it's worth. And it's It's interesting because on the pictures that I saw of it before I bought it, I thought it was a tonal black, but what I got was this like greenish black that doesn't have a lot of tonal variation. So Malabrigo is a hand-dyed yarn. There's always variation, so I'm sure that's just this, but the green tone to it was not something I was expecting. It's still going to work because I have this yarn, which is Malabrigo, I think it's Makita. Yep, Makita, in the color Pegaso. I bought this from Dizzy Sheep as well a couple sales back, and I'm wanting to make this hat, which I don't remember the name of, but I'll insert a picture of here. Whoa! Someone was trying to get back to his cage when he shouldn't have been back in his cage. Anyway, my plan is to use this for the sky part of the hat and this for the bird profile part of the hat. So, I think that'll go well. Even that greenish tone, it'll be fine. It'll look good in here. Don't even think it. So I got those. This was not in the current sale, but I got these two and this set of needles. Because I didn't have any small size 8 needles, and I wanted some. So I did that, and then Knit Picks had a sale. Now, Knit Picks has sales all the time, and this particular thing lined up. There were 2 sales that lined up. One was 20% off of the Stroll yarn, which is their merino nylon fingering weight sock yarn. They have a couple of sock yarn lines. Stroll is the merino nylon one. And then, well, it's one of them. Whatever. It's one of the merino nylon ones. It's one of their usual yarns. And then they had a 15% off site-wide sale, which stacked with the 20% off of Stroll sale, which was awesome. And I wanted Stroll for a sweater, so I bought my first ever sweater quantity of yarn, which is still in the box because I don't have room in my yarn drawers for it at all. But I bought a whole bunch of Stroll in Dove Heather. It's this lovely, lovely neutral gray, and I'm going to do the Casual Friday sweater cardigan with this. I will try to insert a picture here. And then, while you're looking at that pretty picture while I'm scrambling with yarn, I also bought some more Stroll for other things. I got a black and a blue topaz to do a pair of phalanges gloves for my brother because I knit him some fingerless gloves last year. No, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I knit him some fingerless gloves a while back, and he loves them so much, like he hadn't washed them in a year because he wasn't sure how to wash them. He was worried about them getting messed up. So, I'm making him another pair so that he can trade off washing them and not be worried about it. Sorry, I was checking where the rats were. And then, while I was at it, I bought some more blacks and some whites for some color work, and actually one of those Dove Heather balls is also for color work, for doing like socks or whatever in color work. Is it yarn? Do you like the yarn? Yeah, you like the yarn. One of them in particular wants to grab and eat my wool yarn. You want to eat the wool yarn? No, you're not the eater. And then I also bought in theory, if I can show it, I bought 2 balls of this Brava Sport in Asphalt Heather because it was on clearance. And I decided I wanted to do the Hue Shift Afghan, which you may have heard of. It was pretty popular for good reason. Picture here. I'm going to do it in completely different colors, though. I'm going to do like a black to silver to light blue to dark blue diagonal gradient. And this is my second darkest color. And it was on clearance. So I bought it for 20% off the clearance price, so I paid like 85 cents a skein. Yeah. And I bought 2 balls because I wanted to make it a little bit... Sorry. I wanted to make it a little bit bigger than the pattern is. The pattern wasn't... It was more of like a lap blanket, and I wanted more of a... Unfortunately, it's not like a bedspread, because that would require 3 balls, and that was way more than I was willing to pay for this sport weight acrylic bedspread. So I bought enough to make a not quite bedspread sized blanket, which will be fine. I'm going to see what this little one is up to. He's been sitting there for a while, which is sometimes signs of trouble. So, that's all of my news. Like I said, I have not done any cross-stitching. I don't know why. I just wasn't in the mood. Actually, that's not 100% true. I did start gridding fabric for one because I was like, oh, well, I don't want to do any of my current ones. Maybe I'll do a new one. No, still not interested. Lots of knitting and crochet. Nothing worth mentioning in the other crafts category. And rats. Oh, I don't know if you remember, I had said that I had made this little rat cozy out of my old yarn, and they like it. Rat kisses right on the nose. Right in the nose. So, he's very friendly, but he tends to grab a little bit, and he likes to lick the inside of your mouth. Anyway, so I'm going to go now. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed seeing Shale and Basalt, my new babies. If you can't tell them apart, Shale is the one with the white on his arms and on his tummy. And Basalt is the one who's all black with just a little pink on his hands. And so we're going to go do something fun. And we will see you probably with them along. Hopefully in a couple of weeks they'll have chilled a little bit more. So we will see you in a couple of weeks with whatever my next progress is, which may be more now that they're getting a little bit older and chilling a little bit. It's surprising how much difference a week makes with these little guys. They only live 2 to 3 years, so it's a pretty substantial proportion of their life. So anyway, that is all that. And with the rat butt, I will say goodbye.